about 10 o'clock, yeah. Hey, there we go. Wow, look at that. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the first, we're opening the main stage here at Filmscape. Thank you all for coming. This is getting started in film production, a moderated panel. This is not the Wild West. There will be order here on this panel. My name is Alan Dembek. I'm a local 600 first assistant camera person here in Chicago. Have come to Filmscape the last couple years. Very happy to be here moderating. And thank you all for coming. Thank you to Ned and everybody else at Filmscape for putting this together. What a fantastic resource for everybody in the Chicago and surrounding area film community. And we have a great group of panelists here talking about how they got started in the business, sort of reflecting on their paths, what they've sort of gleaned from going through this process, and what they might impart on people who are getting started. So we have Clarise Callahan, Olive King, and Matt Brown. And if each of you guys want to just briefly introduce yourself, what you guys do in the business, and maybe sort of give as much as reasonably possible, maybe a one sentence summary of sort of how you got started in the business here, and then we'll dive right in.
Nice. Well, hi everyone. I'm Clarice, digital utility and digital loader, local 600. I joined in 2021. Prior to that, I was in LA for 3 years doing non-union stuff and working in a rental house. And I went to DePaul, so I kind of did Chicago, did LA, and now I'm back.
Hi everyone, I'm Olive King. I'm a second assistant in 600, and I do like dimmer board op and video playback for Local 476. And before that, I was doing like stagehand work with Local 2 here. Before that, theater consulting, which is like architecture but for theater. And I moved here from after school in North Carolina. Yeah. North Carolina. Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah.
I'm Matt Brown. I came here from East Tennessee, started my career in North Carolina as a production assistant, was a PA here on big TV shows and movies for about 3.5 years. I didn't go to film school, so I kind of got in via being a production assistant. I'm now a Local 600 second AC and independent director of photography, and I spend my time learning a lot about like virtual production work and shooting as much as I can.
Great. Thanks everyone for being here. Matt, I wanted to start with you. So you started your career both not here in Chicago, as well as not in the craft that you're in now. You started as a set PA in North Carolina, which, as you and I discussed, was a lot smaller market than it is than a place like this. How much time did you spend in North Carolina, and what were your... Hi, and we have Ray. Hello. That's okay. Ray, do you want to introduce yourself and sort of give a sort of brief summary of where you are in your film career?
Yeah, sounds good. My name is Ray. I'm a writer-director. I'm also an improviser, and I currently work at Camera Ambassador as a marketing and client relations associate.
Great, thank you. So Matt, you started in North Carolina. You started as a set PA in a very small market. You spent 8 years there, I believe you told me.
I was only a PA there for about a year before I moved to Chicago. I had spent 3.5 years after graduating college with an English and photography degree, but I always knew I was interested in like cinematography, and I spent about 3.5 years like trying to get on like bigger sets and like meeting people who are working on those bigger sets, because I always knew that I was interested in like major studio TV and film. So I was able eventually to get on a feature that was shooting in Wilmington, North Carolina. And as soon as I got on set, I was like, this is it, done. Rest of my life, gotta be here. There was just a magic to it, the circus atmosphere of it. I loved 160 people all going towards the same goal at the same time. Absolutely fell in love with that aspect of it, and just knew that I had to keep going and doing it no matter what.
Yeah. So, starting in North Carolina, you get that set work as a set PA. You move over to Chicago. What was that transition like for you?
It was not bad at all, because I had a connection. I met a director on the show Homeland, which was filming in North Carolina at the time. Leslie Linka Glatter is a brilliant director. She's the head of the DGA now. She's the one who recommended me to work in Chicago. She knew Rich Lederer, who's a UPM here, and he gave my name around in town. And I started working right away. And this was about 11 years ago. And at that time, we had Chicago Fire, and we had a couple of smaller shows in town. But it was really just the beginning of Chicago's ascent in terms of television and film production. So I was really able to kind of get in on the ground floor. And it's a good point, and I always think about this, is that it's really market-based too. I was able to get a lot of really good opportunities early on because the market was here and kind of sustained me. And so I could work often as a PA.
Yeah, interesting. Both Rey and Clarise. Rey, you currently work at Camera Ambassador as a marketing agent. Clarise, you started your professional career post-college at Able Cine, working in rentals. How do you guys feel like that interaction of interacting with filmmakers, camera people, directors of photography help shape your worldview on the business and how it informs your personal careers? Rey, you currently being a camera ambassador now, and then Clarise, you being there at one point and then leaving. I would also add to this question, it's a common thing for, I think, people to throw out if they're looking for a way to get started in the business, maybe start at a rental house. That's a good opportunity to meet people. What are your guys' thoughts on the rental house path, as they say?
Do you want to start?
Yeah. I feel like the rental house path was like a blessing for me in disguise. I knew that when I was graduating school that I was going to have a lot of medical leave, and like as a result I wouldn't be able to work production in the same way because I couldn't do those long hours just because medically I wasn't able to at the time. And so I think rental house proved to be like an amazing opportunity to meet a lot of production folks and learn more about like the ins and outs of like the producer mindset and sort of like, like how to interact with rental houses and how to interact with producers and above the line folks, as well as obviously camera assistants and DPs who roll through all the time. And so it was just this really great way to be able to network, to be able to learn about the equipment and the actual tools that filmmakers use. And yeah, overall, I think the rental house experience is really great too, in that it is like a 9 to 5/10 to 6. And so unlike a film set that goes over, I was able to pursue creative projects at night as well while still working in my field of choice. And that was like an amazing opportunity because then I was able to pursue improv comedy. I was able to pursue a bunch of other, I made a web series. Like there's, the opportunity to be able to create outside a set. And as well as I had an amazing mentor, Erica Duffy, who runs Camera Ambassador, just taught me so much about how to be professional in a workplace, how to be interacting with filmmakers, and that was truly an invaluable experience for me.
And you, Clarise?
Yeah, so I graduated in 2018 and moved out to LA. Not sure if anyone's lived out there, but it is expensive to live out there. So it's pretty tough when you're just starting out in terms of getting sustainable work. So kind of something that after, I think I lived in LA for like 6 months or so, I was doing like AFI film shoots or like random web series things, and I also have a G&E background, so I was doing G&E work and camera work, and it just wasn't really enough in terms of like making ends meet. So I was able to, and I was kind of tired of the G&E thing. No offense to G&E, but camera's pretty fun. So when I got the opportunity to work at the rental house, and kind of the deal that I made with being there was that 9 to 5, 5 days a week. But if I got a camera job, I could be able to take, a day off, a week off to go do that job, which was pretty ideal because I knew, even day one that I started there, that wasn't a job that I wanted to do forever. But I knew that for me, one great way to just have a stable income, which again, like when you're post-college, you need some stability in that respect. And then also knowing that I would have an opportunity to go on set and only have to take camera jobs versus doing G&E jobs to kind of supplement my income, which is great because then I could just really focus on the networking aspect of that, because networking is the number one thing. You could be the best camera assistant ever. You could be, the best cinematographer ever. And if you don't have a network, you're not going to have work. Like that's just the reality of this. It's not a merit-based industry. Obviously, if you don't know what you're doing and, even if you have a bunch of friends, well, then that's also not a way. But I digress. So yeah, for me, rental house was great because it was a great opportunity to improve my technical skills. I got really good at fixing stuff, whether it was like, power problems, cleaning sand out of cameras, because LA, you're always filming in the desert or the beach. Also getting to network, you're, as a prep technician, you're interacting with camera assistants. They're coming to you with a problem like, hey, we have a 3-camera shoot and I need the director monitor to have 3 monitors rigged together and it needs to be able to be run and gun. So like, how do we make that happen? And we're not ever going to be able to charge batteries today, so it needs to be battery powered all day. Those kind of problems, which, if anyone's familiar with the film industry, it's all about, problem solving, being on top of your feet, and having both a combination of tech savviness and that, problem solving capability to kind of really maximize your ability to, figure out these problems. So for me, working at the rental house, great way to meet people, network, great way for me to, go and be able to shoot or be a camera assistant on set, and then also to improve my technical skills as well. So I was definitely happy for it, but also happy when I finally left and, got on set, because that's way more fun.
And I was going to ask you, so you started at the rental house. You were there for 2
Like 2 years, yeah.
You knew, even going into that job, that that's not where you wanted to end up, that this is a
100%,
stepping stone, and you're going to be there for some certain period of time. What do you feel like gave you the sort of like tipping over the edge to say, okay, I've done this, I'm glad I did it, I got a lot out of it, but now it's time to leave and to really kind of take that leap into freelance work, because you're
Yeah, it's a
leaving.
tough decision,
You're leaving
yeah.
a full-time job. You're leaving
Yeah.
stability. You're leaving employment, and you are in many ways kind of jumping into the vast ocean of, I have to
Unknown.
find every job myself now. And sort of how did you handle that, and how sort of what pushed you over the edge?
Yeah, great question. So yeah, I did the camera rental house in 2019. In 2020, I'd been getting a lot more calls to do both, union, non-union camera jobs. And I was like, all right, I think that come the summer, I will quit my job and join the union, or not, well, in LA, it's a different union process, but do full-time freelance work. Then, COVID happened, so that would not be smart to have quit my job, because thankfully, my employer gave me, we got laid off and, COVID and all that stuff. So anyways, COVID kind of delayed that process by a year. So then in 2021 was when I decided, one, I was kind of done with living in LA. LA is great in terms of job opportunities. They have a much more diverse market of things. If you want to work on the big Michael Bay movies, that is where you need to work, or at least to start off so that you can make those connections. But I kind of had come to the decision after living in LA for 3 years that, wasn't really ready for me or right for me. And I felt confident in my network of people back in Chicago, thanks to my DePaul network of friends, all of whom, I'd stayed in connection with, Alan being one of them, his partner Ella being another, like staying in contact and also hearing from them how things were going. I know Matt was talking about, the market. Obviously 2020, not a good time to be working. 2021, a lot of stuff was kind of lined up down the pipeline. So I kind of did know, okay, if there's a time to leave my rental house job, time to move to Chicago, this is probably the best opportunity in terms of just knowing how much work there might be. And thankfully it worked out for me that, yeah, I moved back here and through my network of alumni friends was able to get on Paper Girls, an Amazon show, and Ripple Effects, which is where I met Olive, and join the union. So yeah, I guess in summation, I think you kind of have to make the decision for yourself to know, like, do I have the network to support me having a job, enough jobs? Like, I think if you're constantly having to choose between working at the rental house and like taking a job on set, you're finding like you're always having to make that decision. I think that's probably a good indication that like, okay, yes, I have the network to sustain me and make that transition, versus if it's only like, a few calls a month, it's definitely a tough decision. And also just like making sure you have savings and all those kind of fun things as well. So a lot of things to consider.
There is no perfect moment.
No,
is
yeah,
really
definitely
what
not.
you're boiling it down to. You just have to kind of know that you're diving into the deep end and to understand that your level of employment may go down for a bit with the
Definitely,
understanding
yeah.
that you will eventually
Come
build
back.
it back up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Olive, I want to bring you in on this too. So you started in a mostly unrelated field in theater architecture. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I started as a draftsperson for Schuler and Shook here in Chicago, and I was drawing. And when I'd first moved here, I'd sent my resume into Local 2 because I went to school for like theatrical lighting design. So I was like, oh, I could do stagehand work for a bit.
And for those who are not aware, what is Local 2?
Local 2 is the Chicago Stagehands Union. It's IATSE Local 2.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah.
So I send my resume in, and then I start working, doing like technical drawing, and it's all office work, and I like it for a good bit. But then I'm like, okay, I can't do this anymore. So I follow up with the local, and then I start doing stagehand work, and I quit that job. So that in terms of like, oh, is it secured? Like I was getting like extra calls from them. It's called like being an extra. It's like day playing. Like you do random days whenever they need extra people, like down at Navy Pier or whatever. So that was happening enough that I was able to like make that leap. So that's how I got into stagehand world. And then COVID happened, so events stopped happening. So I did nothing for an entire year. And then like some time had passed, and then film production at that point, I think this was like spring of 2021, was busy enough that 476, which is like all the crafts on set except for costumes and camera, they had reached out to Local 2's mailing list to be like, we need people. So I went and did rigging electrics. And then I was like, wait, this is a lot more fun. This is like kind of the same work. Like it rhymes, it's event work, it's labor, it's kind of blue collar. And I preferred it because it was a more diverse group of people than in stagehand world.
Yeah. So in many ways, you kind of fell into the film work.
Yeah. And I happened to like it. So I was like, okay, I'll stay here. Great, love it.
Yeah.
But I attribute most of the happening to luck and random chance and happenstance more than anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, if we sort of reflect on a lot of these stories here that have been told on the stage thus far, that is, if anything, a common theme for a lot of people, that it's a lot of happenstance, a lot of right place, right time. How do you guys all collectively sort of square that in your mind of everybody has career goals, we all have places that we want to be at with regard to whether it's the kind of job that we want to do or our, any kind of, any kind of goal that we're trying to get into our career. And that there's absolutely a level of perseverance and there's a level of dedication to it, but there's also a kind of a little bit of a rolling of the dice and just sort of being in the right place at the right time. And how do you guys navigate that internally with your personal careers?
I think, like anything else, it's a skill that takes time to develop. So much of the way that the industry operates is nebulous and out of your control. And can cause deep feelings of anxiety and insecurity. Am I doing enough? Am I well liked? And those are difficult questions to wrestle with. So my advice is find a way to deal with the things that you're currently dealing with, because those uncertainties and those like, oh, I don't really know what to do or what the best decision is or how to move forward, to do what I want. If you find a way to deal with it now, like those. It'll get more manageable as you start to pick up work, but those feelings in some way will persist, even if you get to the thing, like you want to shoot. Okay, I'm shooting now, but you're still going to have those feelings of like, am I getting enough work? It's a beast that needs to be fed, and you need to find a way to feed it.
Yeah. Matt, go ahead.
I've always thought about this question a lot because it's so much luck. It's absolutely like just so much luck that goes into this. But I think at the same time, like if you know what you want to do, if you're interested in being a cinematographer, you're interested in being a director, just read about it, think about it all the time, watch movies, just do that. Meet the people. Everyone's been talking about how they, their journey, like how they met certain people that have kind of lifted them up. Be prepared for the luck. that's my thing. That's the way I've always thought about it. I've never really wanted to do anything else with my life except for like work in this industry, be a cinematographer, maybe eventually direct. Like those are the things that I'm really passionate about. I think about them all the time. I interact with people all the time about it. And I'm just always prepared for, the conversation that I will have with the director that I'm going to shoot for. Like I'm prepared for those things. So I have to say with people just starting in their careers and thinking about it, that's what you want to be doing. You just want to be obsessed with it. You want to be thinking about it. And if it feels like you're not making a lot of progress, which it feels like, as Olive was saying, for a lot of us, sometimes it doesn't feel like you're making progress or like you're plateauing. Just constantly be working on yourself and your passion, and you will have that opportunity to kind of rise up, even if it feels like it's taking a while. So.
Yeah, I always think of luck as kind of when opportunity meets ability. So, I don't know if you believe in luck or not. It's kind of like you can't control when.
Go closer.
Closer. Okay.
Yeah.
How's that? You can't control when those opportunities. It still sounds weird. Sorry.
Sorry, we believe in our sound guys back there. They're pros.
Figure it out. Lost my train of thought. Yes, so you can't control when the opportunity is going to come, especially, things like pandemics happening or just, a strike happening. Then there's no work at all. But what you can control is your ability. Like Matt was saying, whether it's going home and watching YouTube videos or doing podcasts or going to rental houses, the rental houses are still open, familiarizing yourself with gear, going to places like this to learn what the new cameras are, what is large format? What kind of things is that changing? What's virtual production? Why do I care about that? Like those kind of things, because you also never know, I started out actually thinking I wanted to do writing and editing. And then, at school, you have to take cinematography. And I was like, wait, this is a job? Like you can be a camera assistant and just like hang out with cameras all day? And I totally sidestepped. So that's kind of another thing is that, don't just be waiting at home for that phone call to come, kind of pursue your passions, again, like Matt was saying, as we've kind of all been saying. I mean, even Olive's story, I just love because it's like, yeah, you never kind of know what you'll stumble upon. And same with like when I moved to LA or back from LA, kind of the reason I even moved to LA was that I didn't think I was ready to join the union right out of college. I was like, that seems too intense, paying dues. I just don't even know if I want to be in Chicago, if I even want to do this job. So I felt like I needed that space and time to kind of develop my skills in LA, develop just that confidence, because you do kind of need to have a little bit of guts to kind of do this job and be like, yeah, like, it's fine, not working for a few weeks, a few months. It's going to be fine. It's going to be great. So yeah, I would definitely say like, can't control opportunity, but you can control, your ability to be ready to seize that opportunity once it comes. And then that's all you kind of need to then go.
Yeah, to kind of echo everyone's idea on stage too, like for me, I think it's a matter of taking space when the opportunity presents itself. As a queer woman of color, it's very hard to take space. And I think like, you're trained from an early age to not do that. But I think it's very important to when I think the coolest opportunities I've ever gotten are ones I was not expecting at the time or ones that I didn't see coming. Like, for example, hey, do you want to be on a panel in Filmscape? And I'm like, sure. Like you don't expect the opportunities that come, but when you do, like you were saying, I think like you have to feel like you are worth taking it, and it's like like you're ready for it, and that that confidence piece becomes really important, and that you have to be able to meet that opportunity, and you have to be ready to take it.
So all of us here have been doing this at least for a bit now, and we have now, in the context of our work, lived through a once-in-a-century global pandemic, and we are now also in a writer strike, and for those of us who work on the set, is very significantly impacting that. So we all collectively have had a lot of time in our professional environment that has been significantly impacted in many ways by things that are so outside of our control. How do you guys handle that level of uncertainty and the level of, does it stress you out? Have you gotten better at dealing with it? And I'm posing this question particularly in the context for people who are in the audience who are maybe just getting started in their careers and who are really battling with that level of uncertainty, particularly with regard to inconsistent work and trying to rectify this understanding of, I don't know when I'm going to work next. How do you guys deal with that uncertainty in your lives? Very well, apparently.
I will not lie, it's a very difficult thing. But there have been many periods of my career where I've not had a lot of work. When I started working in the city of Chicago, I got a couple of PA jobs right away, but then there would be just these breaks that would naturally occur in production. That does not mean that the work will not come back. It's just something that we kind of all have to deal with. Whenever we would wrap a show or I'd wrap a season of something, I would go through a period of being like, oh, what am I gonna do now? Like, and there's this.
Is this it? Is that the last
Is this
job
it?
I've ever
Is this
done?
the last thing? Is it? And then
That's it. I'm unemployed. It's never happened to me again.
I was listening to a podcast with the director of photography, John Lindley, was talking about how when he first moved to LA, was not working for months. And then, like, he thought, am I the only one here not working? And it was, like, racking him with anxiety. Then he realized, no, like, half the population of filmmakers is not working in LA at a given time. Like, it's just that way. So it's just a psychological muscle that you build. That's what I found it to personally be. Just you get used to it. And a great way to get used to it is by keeping busy and by growing. I've been trying to take a lot of this time to just shoot more. Meet new directors, learn virtual production work, which is a huge thing and something that I'm very passionate about.
And are presenting here later at the panel, right?
Yeah, Smash Virtual. I'm going to be going over to Smash Virtual. I encourage y'all to check out their booth and go over to the facility. And I'll be, just shooting a fun little short kind of in real time that will be displayed and kind of showing what virtual production stuff can look like.
Little plug there for Smash.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of to piggyback on top of that, when we are working, we have no lives, pretty much. I'm sure everyone's heard about a Fraturday, so pretty much Saturday, you are just sleeping on the couch dead, and then Sunday's your tour day. So if you're on a full-time show working between 60, 80 hours a week, you have no life, which, we love it. So kind of then during this period of this, it's an ebb and flow during kind of this low period of no work. That's kind of when you can kind of do all the things that you weren't able to do. Especially it's nice that it's the summer, whether it's traveling, hanging out with family. I shoot 35 millimeter film, so getting into that, kind of exploring those passions and kind of feeling more like a person again. Those are kind of the things that help me kind of get through those parts yeah, it sucks that I'm not working, I miss people, whatever, but there's so many other things that life's made of, life isn't just work. And, the other side of that is being, smart with your finances. As awesome as it is to get all those big paychecks at the end of every week and be like, yes, okay, I'm gonna go buy a new PlayStation, I'm gonna go, whatever, buy other crazy stuff, which, if you can, you should, but, I think we all kind of knew the strike was going to happen come January even. So that was when I was trying to, just tighten the wall a little bit. And that's kind of something that you can, just kind of know at the back of your mind, it's okay that I'm not working because I've got those savings. So that's kind of something that can give yourself permission to enjoy life, enjoy doing things because you have earned the break. Normal people only work 8 hours a day. We, on a good day, work 13 maybe. So yeah, so kind of giving yourself that permission to kind of take a break, as tough as that is, and those dark moments of am I never gonna work again? That is tough. That is a reality with this career, is that there's just that lack of stability, and it makes it so that it's not for everyone, because that does exist. But if you're someone who just loves to be super, super busy, and then you just have a nice break, take a month-long vacation, that kind of thing. Those are some ways to kind of get you through the ebbs and the flows.
I would say find what is in your control and what is out of your control, and be gentle with yourself and work on yourself. And that includes your skills. That's what I would say.
This is more for improv, but it's still very applicable for any career path, I think, which is when I was coming up in the improv scene, a mentor had told me, make sure that you have something else that you're interested in other than improv. And what that means for me is I think it's important to have many buckets and not to put all of your eggs in one basket. I've I lead many different lives. Like, I'm not just a filmmaker. And, you know, like having all those different skill sets in the end, I think really helps because that's what people are looking for in the modern workforce. And yeah, I think it's important to diversify your skill sets. And like, you know, if one job path isn't working out, like, you know, like you should still keep pursuing it if that's your dream. But it's also helpful to like start building some other skill sets that you might not have. And my favorite fact is that like everyone knows like the quote, jack of all trades, master of none. But the full quote is actually jack of all trades, master of none. In the end, still better than master of one.
I did not know that. Wow.
I need to pause you for just a moment with my apologies. Anybody who is parked in the lot on 17th and Western, we need to move your vehicles to the correct lot on 17th and Western. So if you have parked at that lot that we told you to park at, we're sorry. The security person let you into the wrong one. So head to your vehicles now, and we're going to get you into the right place. Thank you for letting me interrupt.
Which lot is the wrong lot, and which lot is the right
Like
lot?
we told you, that, like pretty much we were like, park at 1700 Southwestern. There's a lot here to put your car. And then that security person was like, here, put your cars here. And they were wrong. So you're still going to the same place, and we're opening up the correct lot on 17th and Western.
Is the correct lot the larger lot?
I would hope so.
Like, what about
Otherwise, this is even worse.
like immediately when you turn in on 17th?
Chaos
I'm sorry,
ensues.
Hannah.
Yeah, it was
My advice is also find comfort in chaos.
I'm going to jump in really quick as people leave. At 11, there is a discussion at the MBS Coffee Lounge, which is over in the main area with the Local 600 Young Workers Committee, which I think we are all going to go be there and basically continue this conversation in a more informal setting. So anybody who it is in the show floor. It is on the second level mezzanine. So we're gonna go all sit and hang. And I want to clarify for the people working the panel. I'm sorry. I see the red placard. This my understanding was this was from 10 to 11. It's 10:30 now. I just want to make sure. Do we need to?
We're pausing all of the classes so that people can move their cars. So continue on with your conversation if you're here until 11, and then we'll hold off on all the other classes until everybody gets back.
Okay, great.
So yes, thank you.
Anybody who has to move their car, please feel free to go do so.
And discuss as you were. We'll figure it out together.
We're all figuring it out. It's gonna be great, everybody.
Speaking of improv, we're gonna figure it out.
My point in bringing up the discussion at 11 is don't feel as though you have to absolutely stay because we will certainly continue this conversation for anybody who wants to in a more less stage environment. I feel like this is a good time to open it up to questions as we lose half of our audience. So anybody who may have questions they want to pose to our panelists, yes, I see this woman up here. And I'm going to pass you the mic so everybody can hear.
Hi, guys. Great job. Sort of kind of all rolled in one question about the working. Clarice, you mentioned working on the AFI shows when you were in LA and kind of got started. How do you feel? Do you feel that opportunity is beneficial to work on shorts, to work on that kind of thing? Is there a similar opportunity here in the Chicago area to kind of work on student films? Did you get paid? Can you talk just a little bit about that as far as kind of how that helped propel your career?
Yeah, sure. So sadly, did not get paid, but you know, that's yeah, again, tough stability. So yeah, no, didn't get paid. I think for me, one, it's kind of just getting those skills. You know, would I rather make a mistake on a student's short film? Like, do you want to drop a lens on a student short film? Obviously, you never want to do that.
Hopefully
but
you're not dropping a lens anyways.
hopefully never
but-
dropping a lens. I've never dropped a lens. Or on, you know, Chicago PD. So it kind of is helpful to have those opportunities. Maybe I'm not starting off this well.
If we change lens for filter, then that's maybe a
Okay,
little
filter,
more
yes,
doable.
which I have also, done that. That's true. Yes, filter. I guess what I'm trying to say is that for me, I think that a good way to be such a successful camera assistant, DP, operator, whatever, is to be able to just get that muscle memory, get all those skills, get that practice, like, you know, so that when you do make it to, you know, a union production set, you're ready to go. So you're still going to make mistakes. I know I make mistakes still, but at least all the big mistakes, if there are, they have to happen. Better to do it on a student production set where the stakes are lower. You're not getting paid, whatever it is. I felt like that was pretty beneficial in terms of like learning, wearing Converse sneakers to set, terrible idea. Not bringing water, terrible idea. Like just kind of those mistakes help you learn so that by the time you're on a union film set, you know what tools you're bringing. You know to bring sunscreen, a hat. Like I need to probably have, breakfast before I come to set. Whatever those kind of things are, you're ready so that you can be as professional as possible. Like doing those kind of productions, low budget short films like I was doing. I did stuff for YouTube for like a YouTube production company. As kind of like minor league as those productions seem, those are kind of the foundation of your career in a way. Like that's really where you can kind of hone in your skills and become the best you can be. And also, it's a great way to find out, do I actually love this? It's if you're doing film sets, on AFI and you're just like not loving it and you're like, oh, well, I'm sure it'll be better once I get onto, Empire or whatever, Titanic movie. It's not going to get easier, So I think it's kind of a good like first step in confirming, like a checkpoint, if you will, that yes, this is something I love to do. I love camera department. This is like kind of where I want to spend my time honing in my skills. And that was, I think for me, really important to kind of have those hours on sets, getting those reps in to confirm, like, I love this, and yeah, I'm ready for joining the union when it comes.
I will push back just a tiny bit on the idea that it's not different from like smaller sets to bigger. Like there's a level of professionalism that you find on bigger sets that I find very encouraging. Also, we're all the four of us right here are members of a union, and we're all skilled labor. That makes a massive difference to the way that a set is run. If you have a union set and you're talking about skilled labor, it does relieve. There are alternatives to feeling like exploited, number of hours. Like there are some pretty big differences. It's also not uncommon to work for free when you're first starting out, just to gain the experiences and make those mistakes. Like Clarice said, you want to make sure you're not being exploited for your time. But I mean, like again, I did not go to film school, and I learned 100% by being on set. That was my main teacher, and by taking all of these unpaid opportunities to shoot things for friends and the people that I would meet on set. That has been my personal education, and I vouch for it 100%, because I think working on big studio sets builds this way and this very professional way of doing things that just, if you can internalize it, will make even the shittiest set like go better if you can stick to your level of professionalism. And that's what I learned personally by being on bigger sets.
I would say also be open to working in other crafts. Ultimately, it's about being in the shooting environment, like going from an indie to a union set, and the way that the sets are run and how people treat each other and the level of professionalism. So if you want to do like G&E for a bit, that's like comparatively easier to break into than camera, especially in Chicago.
100%, yeah.
So then you can like meet camera people and be like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
That's how I ended up in 600, so.
And you know what kind of obstacles they're dealing with, like,
Yes.
What it means for, these lights to get set up, like what it means for them, I can't just show up and be like, why don't I have power for my village? Like, where are all the lunch boxes? Like, you understand, no, like we had a pre-call or their truck is parked further away. Like you understand how, their workflow is going by like, understanding different departments. I think it's huge to like, try different crafts like that.
Or just like watch other people work and ask questions if you're curious.
Yeah, totally. You probably will learn some good things.
Yeah, I think also the indie filmmaking world is its own world, like away from the union world in that sense of like, obviously there's mixing. I just mean like it is a bit of a different vibe, and so like you can start in the indie world and move into union, but you can also just end in the indie world. Like plenty of work gets done there as well. I think it is a different vibe because most people that I know aren't doing like filmmaking full time. It's more like there's projects on the weekends and stuff like that. And you get, but once you kind of break into the indie scene, it's very much like very tight knit community. Everyone kind of pulls people in immediately right off the bat. And I think, honestly, the indie filmmaking scene is what kept me in Chicago. So I graduated from Northwestern, and at Northwestern, there's very much a narrative of you're either going to New York or LA, or you are not a real filmmaker. Sorry, that sounded more like shade. I would never throw shade. No, but I stuck around in Chicago because of the people I met through the indie filmmaking scene. I think the Chicago filmmakers are some of the most warm and like can-do people in this entire country, honestly. Like, if there's any idea that comes through, it's never really been a question of like, that's not possible. It's always been a question of how can we pull that off? And that is, I think, a collaborative environment. Like, whether you decide to use that as like a starting point or your ending point, it is an amazing place. And truly, like, I think as soon as you get your first gig, like, you know, people will know your name and you will find more work. Like, it's just a matter of like building those relationships and being able to start that.
Yeah, just to add on to the indie world. So when I was in LA, I worked indie because you can't work on union shoots if you're not in the union in LA. And there's a ton of work in the union world, especially out there, or sorry, the non-union indie world out there. And it is kind of cool to get to work on someone's like it might be a, you know, someone's passion project, where you're the director and writer. It's their first big show, which, you know, could be pros and cons of that. But yeah, like I would say, you know, joining the union might not be what everyone, you know, everyone's career. That doesn't necessarily mean you've had a successful film career as being, you know, a union camera assistant. Indie world's great. You know, you can make a lot of money doing commercials or getting to, you know, you might even be able to move up the ladder much quicker if you're doing non-union things. A lot of times they don't have, because it's non-union, they don't require positions like a loader. So maybe as a second assistant, you're also doing loading work and utility work. So I would say, yeah, definitely, especially if you're starting out, the indie world is your friends. Like, that's a great place to be, and you'll be kind of like you were saying, a lot more, it's a very supportive, welcoming community. Everyone's just kind of very passionate and like, yeah, happy to be there. So yeah, I think it's a nice, safe space to begin.
Great.
I don't mean to be interrupting you guys, I'm so sorry, but we figured out the parking issue. We just have one vehicle that is, we can't find an owner to. It's a Honda Odyssey. Does anyone own a Honda Odyssey here?
Honda Odyssey.
Honda Odyssey? No? Okay, good. All right, what else is okay though? Yeah, so far, yeah.
So far.
I think we have.
Yes.
How you doing? I'm BJ Wilson. I run an organization called the Chicago Film Scene. We're a loose group of mostly behind the camera talent, and most of our productions are zero budget. So I want to go back to the question. It's actually a two-part question. Number one, as a director / producer who asks for crew that I can't necessarily pay, what's the best way to make the experience worthwhile for them, both during production and post-production? The second part of my question is, you mentioned Converse shoes. What do you wear on set, if not Converse shoes? Thank you.
Feed them so well.
Oh, no, that's it. Like, and also, to be honest, just keep it, I mean, like, we're all used to working kind of long hours. I mean, like, when I hear a long day, and I'm working a bunch of indie stuff now too, because that's what's in town, and I've made a bunch of friends in the indie scene. I feel like personally, like in Chicago, there is a lot of crossover between the folks that work on the union sets and the indie, and, you know, it's just a different attitude of working. But, like, keep the hours, you know, minimal. Don't do a 14-hour day on a freebie. You know, like, you keep the, you know, maybe don't do it, you know, cap it at 12, cap it at 10, whatever you feel like. But just make sure it's not too long and feed people well. That's a huge thing. And just make sure everybody knows that they're appreciated. Just personally say it. Anytime I'm shooting something that's indie, you know, every single day at the end of the day, I thank every crew member, you know, personally. Like, hey, that was great. I love how you did this. Like, that kind of thing goes a long way.
I was just going to say the hours. Don't go over 12.
I feel like 10 is honestly, like, if I'm not getting paid, I think 10 is nice.
10s are nice.
Especially because if you think of portal to portal, like, yeah, maybe crew call was 8 and you wrap at 6, but I had to get here an hour or so earlier and I had to leave my house and then I have to wrap up. There's a lot of that portable time. So just being, aware of people's time. Also, break for lunch on time. That's not cool because we're not getting meal penalties. In the union, we're protected by that. Every half hour that we're not getting, ability to stop working, we're getting compensated for that pretty decently well. So that's another thing is 6 hours break for lunch. Like that's good. Also just making sure there's water on set. Maybe it's funny, maybe it's not, but I have been on a lot of sets where there's just, you run out of water, run out of water. So yeah, I would say just the necessities would be great. And then in terms of the shoes, it depends on, if you're on stage or if you're outside in the rain, in the snow, in the mud, in the sand. I would say something that just has traction. I love Timberland boots. I'm kind of short, so they give me some height, and they're very comfy. You're going to be standing all day. Like something that you can stand on a flat surface for 12 to 14 hours in, and also like walk straight, push a cart up a hill, just think about all the physical stuff you're going to be doing when, the lift gate is wet. Gets very slippery, so especially in the winter, having boots that are comfortable. I have driving shoes and my work shoes, so when I drive in my car, I have nice comfy shoes, and then I'll switch into my work boots for work, throw them in the back of my car so they can stay gross in there. So yeah, on your feet are, that's a huge mistake that I think I learned was, protect, doing everything you can to protect your body because this is a very physically demanding job. And again, in terms of having people work for free, being aware of that, making sure that there's a nice place to sit for lunch because people may have been standing for hours, making sure that there's air conditioning or, heaters, just kind of, anything you can do to make yourself not feel like you're dead after working all day.
Yeah. I also made a web series on 2 grand the past year. And we were able to pay stipends for crew members, but obviously that's not pay that is really meaningful or helpful in that, it's more of a gesture. I think in that regard, when you don't have much money to give to people, how do you get them on your set? I think the biggest piece is also for every crew member, letting them know of your vision and trying to persuade them of your artistic intent as well is really important because at the end of the day, we're all artists and, we all want to create work that feels good and is important and, cool. And I think it is very important to also think about hey, this is why it would be work, how good for you too. This is why I'm passionate about the work. This is what the work means for me. And being able to convince them of that passion that you have for the project is also, I think, a big piece of it.
I completely agree. I would say respecting people's time and having good vision that people are passionate about getting behind would be the 2 biggest things for me. Question, yes.
Thank you. Well, one, thank you all very much for sharing your experience and time today. I'm very grateful. I'm sure everybody else is. The question I have is, can you define a couple terms for me? A rental house, as far as what the definition is and a little description of kind of how it works. I'm getting a general idea, but that would be helpful. And then G and E would be awesome just to know what those are. Thank you.
G&E stands for grip and electric, and it's the lighting technicians and the people who shape the light.
A rental house is where film equipment is rented to filmmakers. So, oftentimes these film equipment, lenses, for example, are so freaking expensive. I once rented one and saw the actual price and was KO'd for a little bit. But, they're very expensive. And so a rental house kind of takes all the cost up front. So that way filmmakers can just pay a small rental fee.
And something I'd add to that too is, we don't have an office. Our office is a truck, a cart, wherever you're standing, maybe, So the rental house can kind of be a workspace office. I know you go to Panavision quite a lot to do testing, even just kind of if you have a prep coming up, being there, that's kind of I feel like it's kind of your safe space in a way.
It's your home base.
Yeah, great. Yeah, it's your home base, especially the people who work there. Again, as someone who's worked there, please be nice to them, befriend them. You don't have to become their best friend, but it really is helpful, especially when it's you know, Panavision closes at 6 and it's 5:30 and you need to call Stan because you forgot to ask for 5 batteries or something like that, you know, Stan is, or whoever you're calling, is going to be more willing to answer your call and like try to make that happen for you if you guys have a good relationship. Kind of like I was saying earlier, is again, it's not a merit-based industry. It's your relationships matter, and especially you're the rental house. Like having the rental house on your side is huge. I have everyone on speed dial, you know, because as a loader, you're constantly communicating with them. So yeah, I would say rental house is a really great home base. Familiarize yourself. Kislev is right here over on CineSpace. And Panavision is just a little bit south of here they're on Ashland and
They're close.
Carroll. Yeah, they're close.
We've
So
all got Google.
yes. And then there's PRG, you know.
We love them too. Sponsored by PRG.
Sponsored by PRG. They're no longer here, but they're nearby-ish.
Yeah.
So
I saw another question. Yes. Trying to get as many as possible.
Yeah, thank you. I was wondering if you could speak more to being at the very beginning of aspiring to work in film and not having had past experience, maybe even like Matt not having gone to film school. If you could just speak to what practical steps someone could take to look for opportunities and find ways to gain experience.
I would say the gentleman who has the film production company, who's kind of making these like low budget shorts, that's not tied to a school. That's not tied.
Yeah, go talk to him.
Yeah, go talk to him. Like just find those people in town that are doing those things. I mean, yeah, I had to make my own connections. Basically, I had to, when I first moved to Chicago, I thought, how do I go to a rental house? But I ended up being a PA, and all the people that I have shot for or worked on their sets as like a camera operator as I was trying to, move up. Those are all people that I met on set who wanted to do something like on the weekend. And that's a great place too. Like if you want to be a PA, start talking to people. Tell when it's appropriate on set at lunchtime. Tell them, yeah, man, I really want to shoot. I really want to camera operate. It's like, and there's going to be somebody there that wants to do the same thing, who needs a camera operator one weekend. You never know. Like I just got recommended to a director by a PA that I used to hire on the show Empire 7 years ago. Like you never know. Where that connection's going to be. So my advice is to be strategic. If you know what you want to do, and I really want to go into camera. Look up all the camera rental houses. Call those people. Be like, hey, can I come in for a little bit? Then you're going to meet the ACs that are going to get you on. Just be strategic in your thinking about those things, and be a good person. Like be a friendly, like good person, and be easy to be around. Because all of us are working on sets for 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 19 hours sometimes. On the crazy ones. Definitely done that before. You want to be around people that have good attitudes and that will make your day better. That's why friendships are forged. That's why being a good person matters in this business. Yeah, that'd be my advice.
Any last minute? We have to free the stage up in just a minute here for the next presentation 11. But any parting words to our guests, with the understanding that we will be at the MBS Lounge at 11.
I'm an open book. When we're doing this later, please anybody come up, ask me anything.
Great. Well, I apologize. I know there were some more questions. We just have to free the stage for the next session at 11. Thank you all so much for coming. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you to Filmscape for having us. Thank you to our sound, video, and audio engineers in the back who are running the stage and the support equipment. We appreciate them as well. And we hope to see you guys very soon. And I'm just going to leave the microphones on the stage over here.